In this video, we're going to see the syntax for for loops, and we're also going to introduce a new data type called range. So let's start by defining a bunch of variables. I'm going to have a string. Let's call it my string. This is going to be hello world. Let's have a list. Let's call it my list. And as usual, let's have it 3, 1, 4, 1. Let's have a tuple. I'll call it my tuple. Also 3, 1, 4, 1. And a set. Let's call it my set. And 3, 1, 4, 1. And I'm going to evaluate this by pressing Shift Enter. And okay, now we have a bunch of these variables defined. Let's say I wanted to print out every element of my list. The way that we do that is we type the word for. Then we have a choice of dummy variable, let's say x. We're going to use the keyword in, and then let's say my list. Then you're going to have a colon, and I'm going to press return. Now Jupyter will automatically indent this for me. It has 4 spaces, so if I were to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Typically though, I don't recommend messing with the spaces yourself because even if it's off by 1, it will not work. But here, so 4 spaces. Let's see. And yeah, difficult for me to count, so let's just indent it and leave it there. And okay, let's print x. Then I run it by pressing Shift Enter, and I can see here it went 3, 1, 4, 1. So exactly what I would expect. Another thing I could do is let's try the same thing, but for my string. So remember, this is the words hello world. So for x in my string, let's print x. And here, so it does it character by character. I have HELLO space WORLD. Now you might be thinking that, as it is in some other languages, these individual letters are characters, but I hope that I can convince you that these are considered strings. And the way we can see that is we can do something like print, let's do type of x. And let's also print the length of x. So this should be length, like a length 1 string. So let's see. So here it's saying H is a string of length 1. E is a string of length 1. And that's an L, not a 1. It looks very, very similar, but so on and so forth. Something important to keep in mind, though, is notice that I wanted all of these things to be done for every x in my string, so that's why they were indented in the for loop. Watch what happens if I remove the indenting. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to highlight and then press Shift Tab. So notice now these print statements are going to be outside of the for loop. So only when we get to the very last element of my string, so that's hello world, so that would be D, then it's going to print D, it's going to print the type, and then the length. So let's see. So here, it printed hello world, and only when x is equal to D, it exits the for loop, then it prints the type of x, and it prints the length of x. So here, that was D. Cool. Let's see. So same thing we can do for tuple and set. So I can say for x in my tuple, let's print x. So that looks good. And for x in my set, now remember sets don't have repetition. So here I get 1, 3, 4, but 1 is not duplicated. One thing I want to highlight again here is remember sets also don't have an inherent notion of ordering. So based off of just this example, you might think, oh, well, it's ordered. But I just want to emphasize that again and also let you know that you should never base any functionality of your code on the idea that like the set will be printed in any particular order. So if your code is kind of depending on that, that's not a good thing. So that's the basic syntax for loops, but kind of I've showed you how we displayed every element in these data type or these variables corresponding to different data types. But what if we just wanted to do the same thing over and over again? So remember back to our MATLAB videos where we were printing the statement hello world a whole bunch of times. How could we do something like that? And this is where we're going to introduce our range data type. And the way this works is we type the word for, And then again, we pick our dummy variable. I like I for indexing. Then we say in. Now we have range, and we put the integer that we want to do, like how many times we want to do the action. So for I in range of 5, let's start by just printing I. So we can see here, again, like usual, indexing starts at 0. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 total elements, but indexed with 0 through 4. Now you might think, well, maybe this range is just something that we use only with for loops, or maybe kind of it only really appears in this context. But one thing that we can do is, let's say I'll give it a variable name. I'll say my range. Let's let this be equal to range of, I'm going to say 10, go to 3, down by -1. And then I can say, well, type of my range, and we can see that this is a range object. So again, maybe we can take a look and say, for I in my range, let's print I. So we can see here, it goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. But remember, we don't typically include right endpoint, so we don't include 3 as we're counting down by 1. So another thing I want to highlight is for these range objects, they always have to follow a very particular pattern. So for instance, if I wanted to get like digits of pi or something, I wouldn't want to use a range object for that, and not just I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't be able to. So our range objects are always going to figure this set kind of regular pattern. And we can take a look at a few more examples. So let's do my range 2. And I'm going to say this starts at 3, goes up to 1,000. Oops. My range 2 equals range 3 to 1,000. And now I'm just going to show you some indexing. So let's say my range 2 of 0. So remember, this starts at 3, so we expect this to be 3. My range 2, my range 2 of, what if we did -1? So what's the very last element? We'll be careful. It's tempting to think 1,000, but it should really be 999, because remember, we don't include the 1,000. So here we get 999. Slicing works the same way, so I can say my range 2 of, let's say, start at 10, go up to 100, count by 4. And we can see here, well, this is this, or what this is saying is, this is the same as the range that starts at 13, goes up to 103, and counts by 4. So maybe take a minute and convince yourself that that really is the case. But remember here that these are indices. So we're saying start at the 10th index, don't go, or go up to, but don't include the 100th index, and count by 4s. Another thing we could do is we could say length my range 2. So this should have 997 elements. Again, convince yourself that that makes sense. We can see here at 997. So like I said, we're mostly going to be using ranges with for loops, and kind of you might be wondering, why did I show you all of these kind of slicing and indexing options if we're not going to be really using them outside of that context? And it's really just to emphasize that range is another data type with a lot of functionality that we care about and that we've seen before. And I guess another thing I want to highlight too is in Python, you'll see that there seems to be an endless number of data types. So we already introduced a whole bunch of kind of data types that are unique to Python. And up until this point, all of the ones that we've shown, I want you to have a good understanding of and to kind of be aware of and like work with their attributes and different properties. There will be points in the quarter where we introduce a data type and it's not super important that you know kind of all about it. Maybe just it's enough to see it once kind of thing. So I'll let you know when we get to these data or those data types, but for now, ranges, lists, tuples, sets, these are all very important, and it's good to get comfortable with them. So I think this is a good place to end the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.